Hey everybody, this is John. Welcome to Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Elizabeth Corbett. Elizabeth, it's great to connect with you, President of Enterprise for AE Global. You are on a mission to build sustainable packaging and supply chain programs for companies which honor their brand identity, drive revenue, protect the product, and meet their budgets. You've worked with companies from Starbucks to Tiffany to Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, GTI. You've got a pretty impressive background, and I'm looking forward to jumping in and talking with you. Thanks so much for taking time. You know, one of the things I wanted to kick off with you and talk about, because I love the idea of packaging. I think packaging is, I think it's cool. I think it's important. I think people love it. But where do people get stuck in their packaging? Because when it comes to getting it to simple.
Getting it to simple. Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
In terms of, that can be a lot of different things. That can mean that it's something that is easy to open, easy to work with, right? Something where the customer experience is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that you don't feel like it's really wasteful. I had an experience last year where I bought something at Costco that it was something I had wanted to buy, and it was in this huge box, and it's all pretty and everything. And I opened it up, and the product was only half the box, and they made the box really big to, I guess, get more branding space. I'm not quite sure. I was offended, to be honest, in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
I was offended because there's a part of you that feels like you got screwed, right? There's something missing. And then there's the other part, of you that hates
like a bag of
wastefulness.
potato chips. Yeah. You open up a bag of potato chips, it's half full.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think most people now have almost everybody has a little part of them that wants to be more sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when you get the Amazon box and what you bought is this big and the Amazon box is this big.
Yeah.
And you just hate that, right? You don't feel like you got robbed. You just feel like, wow, that's like so much waste.
Unnecessary. Yeah. Yeah.
Completely unnecessary on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And so I think that can be simple, right? Making sure, and simple is, clean, right? Making sure that the box is really the size that it's supposed to be. And then making that it really represents your brand. I had the opportunity to work with Tiffany when they were redoing their e-commerce packaging.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, like, let's say 10 plus years ago, when you used to buy something from Tiffany online, they would take the blue box and wrap it up in the white bow, and then they would wrap it in about 6 layers of bubble wrap and stick it in a plain cardboard RSC box that shows up at your door. I know that if I'm sending somebody a gift from Tiffany, I'd like it to feel like you're getting a gift from Tiffany, right?
Yeah.
So that would be an example of, when I think of simple, it's also about the experience, right? Making sure that it's not wasteful, but it also feels like, oh, wow, I got something from Tiffany, whether I'm buying it for myself or I'm sending it to somebody.
Yeah. I think that's great, because it's like, so I'm assuming, do they send the box as is now? So you get, how does it work now? How did you evolve it?
It's a completely different experience now. Now it's still craft on the outside, because we all know porch theft is a real problem.
Yeah.
So, but when you open it now, it's actually got, like, messaging. It's a simple kind of open box. There's a nice card there. A lot of companies now are also doing a QR code, so you can scan the QR code and you have, some sort of opportunity to interact directly with the customer. Think about the fact that all of us, I mean, a huge percentage of what I buy now, I buy online, right?
Yeah, me too.
And so as a brand, that's my only time that I get to interact with the customer, other than like maybe on my app or maybe online. There is no interaction in the store.
Yeah.
So that package, that e-commerce package is really important now to get that experience. Like when you get that box and you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know what it is, whatever the brand is.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Let's keep on that topic. What's one lesson you continually learn over and over again when it comes to, the brand experience, the customer interaction and the customer experience, especially in a world where getting a package is pretty common. It's not as special anymore. We're all getting, I shouldn't say all, but many of us are getting tons of Amazon packages and online packages every single day. So what is one lesson we're learning on how to differentiate from the 4 boxes that are sitting on your front porch?
One is find a way that I can think of a couple quick things. Find a way to have some sort of interaction with the customer, like when they open it. Um, when they open that box, is there some sort of message there, right? That instant um, opportunity to communicate and bond. My husband subscribes to Harry's. So when you open up a Harry's box, there's always some sort of fun message, right? So that would be an example. I think another thing is returns are part of everyday life. So if you do have, if your product is going to somebody like me, make it really easy for me to return it.
Yeah,
So is it something where it's got the tear strip, but then it's got another adhesive strip on there? Um, that that makes me more likely to buy from you.
yeah,
Again, you've made my life easy. You don't want to make it so I have to find a box, I have to find a bag. Um, or you can do it like Amazon does, where I can take the item, I can take my printout slip, I can go to Whole Foods and they take care of it. That makes it really easy too.
yeah,
So that is, I think, yeah, just make it easy.
yeah. Make it easy. Yeah. Who was a mentor along the way for you that taught you, and what did they teach you about getting to easy?
Um, I had an amazing boss when I worked at Nina Paper, where I worked for a really long time, and her name was Marjorie Pond. She's still a friend. She's retired now, but one of the best bosses I ever had. And one of the things that she taught me, which a couple of big ones that are for me personally, is make it so somebody wants to buy from you, not that they
Yeah,
have to buy from you, which I'll remember that forever.
yeah,
Because even if you have the absolute best product on the planet, nothing sells itself, right? You want to make it so they want to buy from you. And then the other big thing I learned from her that is it's honestly my personal mantra, and everybody who works for me and with me knows it, and that's find a way to yes.
yeah,
And that can be, a customer can ask for something and maybe it's not possible in the format that they've asked for it, but finding the right format that they feel good about.
yeah,
And that's going to, again, sometimes you can ask for something that like the budget's just insane, right? I mean, that what they've asked for, you're like, I know that I can't do this for you in this budget, but I can do this,
right.
and you're still going to feel really good about it. So yeah, that's probably those were some of my and those are, well, I've had those as personal mantras now for 20 years.
Great. I love it. Um, those are great pieces of advice, and I think getting to yes is really important. I find that getting to yes without telling people the behind the scenes of what you have to do and shuffle is also important, right? Because you don't need to put anything on them that makes them feel bad about your yes. So so yeah. I love talking about that. Let's do a mini business course. So if I were to go to your webpage, aeglobal.com, on the homepage, it says custom packaging solutions, innovative packaging and supply chain solutions built for your business. So let's do a 3-part business course. 3 ways that companies should be thinking about custom. Because I think
Hmm.
everybody thinks about custom in a different way. We're talking about customer experience. Everything needs to be curated, in a way. Um, what's one of the first things that you talked, one of 3 things that you talk to people about and or that they should be thinking about?
I'll use let's say you're an let's say you're doing a beverage, right? You're an alcohol company, or maybe you're, I do a lot of work in the nutraceuticals and supplement space. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is um, the cost to buy, let's say, their jar is the exact same if they have a custom jar or a stock jar. The only real difference in the cost is the mold to do that jar. So if you're going to be doing something that's 50, 100, 150,000, whatever that is, you might as well do a custom mold. The
Yeah.
only thing that you have to do in that case is make sure you have enough time and make sure you're thinking about your packaging early in the process versus like, oh, hey, I made this amazing nutraceuticals. Oh, heck, I need a jar, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be part of the initial process because that is going to make you stand out on shelf. Think about when you go to an alcohol store and you see the Angel's Envy bottle, or you see a Blanton's, or I mean, or anything like that, or Finlandia. Those bottles really, really stand out. That the amount of money that they're paying for that bottle is the exact same amount if they were buying a stock bottle. The only difference was the custom mold.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, that's a really small investment.
Small. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's probably the very first thing that I tell anybody. Or and the MOQs for doing custom are often 5, 10,000. They're not that much.
Yeah.
I really tell people, let's start at 10,000 because then it's more palatable. But it's the very first thing that I think of, and then from so that would be the first part of the experience.
What's number
Um,
two?
Number two is really think about what your sustainability platform is going to be, because it's table stakes now, right? You don't have a choice. And whether you're a company that's thinking about going public, because a lot of times when you're, meeting potential investors or you're working with Goldman Sachs or whatever, they're going to be like, what's your sustainability platform? So you should be thinking about that up front. Is this something that's recyclable? Am I using recycled materials? Am I right sizing this? What's my message? Because it should be part of the message. My favorite story about this, and this was about 6 years ago, so this doesn't happen anymore, but I did a whole new branding exercise, packaging for 6 brand new product lines for a brand new cannabis brand, and we've produced it. We're about to launch it, and their marketing department called me and said, "Hey, what's sustainable about our new packaging?" Now, the great news is I'm a sustainable person at my core, so
Yeah.
I had already specified a lot of things that I could share with them that they could build their story about. But what if they'd been working with somebody who didn't care or wasn't thinking about that?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I would say is not only think about your customer experience, but also think about how are you going to be packing this out, right? A lot of times when I'm working with a brand and a company, and let's say we're redoing a brand, one of the very first things I like to do is look at the existing packaging and then talk to the people at their manufacturing facility. It's like, what do you like about this current packaging and what do you hate?
Yeah.
What could I do in whatever I do in a rebrand so it makes it easy for you to pack out? Maybe I can automate part of it. Maybe you've got 6 guys at the end of the line having to pack this out and we can get this down to 4. And, really be able to streamline the process and help you from a production perspective. And a lot of times I think people forget that. But
Yeah.
it's really important. And it's also going to help. Let's say you're developing a brand new brand or a new product. That's going to really help you in terms of your target COGS, because your target COGS, cost of goods, sorry, aren't just about, your packaging, but it's also like, how much does it cost for you to actually pack that thing out?
Yeah.
Or are there things that we can do to make it so it's easier on a skid, or, you can store more and you can, ship more on a skid? There's so many different elements
Yeah.
of that.
It's great.
I don't know if that's the direction you wanted to go, but those are a lot
No,
of the
that's
things
good.
I think about.
What's number 3?
Oh gosh, that's kind of number 3 for me.
No, so number 2. Okay, so that kind of merged into 3.
Number 2 is sustainability, and then number 3 goes, it's like, how are we going to actually pack this out? And then
Gotcha.
if you
All right,
want
I
to,
was
number,
talking about the other. Yeah.
if we add a fourth, for me, it's back to that customer experience.
Yeah.
What do you want the customer experience to be? Do you want them to? I'll use supplements. It's a really good one. Right now in supplements, you know, in nutraceuticals, there's a big move toward maybe you get a really nice custom jar and that's what sits on your kitchen counter or your bathroom counter or whatever, something that's appealing. And then you do the refill via flexible packaging.
Yeah.
And when you look at it from a sustainability perspective, it uses a lot less material. It's a less money for you. It's less money to ship. It's less stuff for you. Like I know that I have certain things certain supplements that I do subscription to, and they all come to me in, you know, another big jar, and then I'm just recycling the other jar. It'd be a lot better for everybody if I was just refilling it.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you a question. So the success is never a straight line. Give us kind of the 60-second version on how you got to this company.
Oh, wow. So there were some things I had that were kind of a straight line, but I ended up getting into packaging because I was an advertising and PR major in college, was managing the marketing communications for 5 product lines at a company called Safeco. And I knew that I really wanted to go into sales. And I went to the VP of our business unit and said, I'd really like to be able to go into sales. I was in my 20s. And she told me that I didn't have what it took to go into sales.
Yeah.
And that made me mad.
Yeah. I bet.
And 3 weeks later, I got a call from a recruiter to ask if I wanted to go to work for a paper mill, as a mill rep, as a kind of a manufacturer sales rep. And I had never thought about doing that. I loved paper. I worked with paper because of my job. I never thought about selling it. So that's definitely like, you know, a little bit of a zag, right? How you get there.
Yeah.
And then as I evolved in there, I was only involved on the paper side. And then I had the opportunity to start the packaging unit at Nina Paper, to be a lot more involved in that. And then I realized that I wanted to sell the whole package. I didn't want to do just the paper. And then that's when I started getting some more opportunities outside of Nina, which I didn't realize was going to happen. But again, those came from a phone call. I've been really fortunate. I haven't had to look for a job in a really, really long time. Everyone kind of came through some phone calls and through networks. And I would tell anybody that if you are, whether you have a job and you're thinking about leaving or you're unemployed, man, your network is everything. I use LinkedIn all the time, but I don't know if anybody gets a job by just applying for a blank one on LinkedIn. I don't think so. Not usually.
Yeah, I talk a lot about that, and you know, your network is your net worth, and it's so important. Building your network is number one. Absolutely, yeah, and it's something that you never should stop. I have my coaching company, but I have another company called Launch 3, where it's more of an on-demand platform of coaching for people, and we talk about a ton about networking there as well. It's critical. It's critical to. And that's how it happens. That's great. All right, let's do a quick speed round. A book that's had a big impact on you.
Never Eat Alone.
It's a great one. It's a great one.
It's a great one, and it goes to the networking thing. And I am a big believer in, like, I just had a conversation with somebody last week, and they're like, well, you know, what can I do for you? And I was like, you know what? Everything comes around, right? Yeah. Everything comes around.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think, you know, we're talking about networking, is the best way to think about networking is kick it off by opening up your network to other people. You know, if you have to be selective, but in a way, but open up your network, and it'll come back tenfold. I love that. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
It took me a long time to get to hear, but don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
That took me a long time.
Yeah, me too. I'm kind of finishing that lap right now. Yeah, I'm finishing that lap.
I'm not all there, but
I'm finishing the lap. I feel like, yeah.
I have a woman who works for me that we've worked together for. I brought her from my previous company, and so she's known me a long time, and there'll be something that happens, and I'll just be totally even keeled, and she'll be telling people, she goes, 8 years ago, this would not have been bad.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. Finish this sentence. One thing that everybody can do to take their customer experience to the next level is?
Ooh. Take your customer experience to the next level. One of my very favorite things is to go to the stores where the products are.
Yeah.
And ask the people who are selling them. I'm doing a lot of work for Culligan, and when I first started working with them, I started hanging out at Ace Hardware.
Yeah.
And I started asking the guys, like, what do they like? What do they don't like? And asking about all the different stuff. And man, you can learn so much. And they love being asked, by the way. That is the best experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the least expensive form of marketing. Sometimes there's an old story that Sam Walton used to, be in a boardroom, and they would give him all this data, and he would go to the diner and coffee shop to see what data was meaningful to his customers, and then go back and, use this, don't use this, et cetera, et cetera. But I coach solopreneurs to Fortune companies. And when I'm talking to business owners or managers or whomever, and they have questions about their people or their clients, one of the things I always recommend to them, Elizabeth, is just you got 100 people in your company, you got 200, just pick up the phone and call every single person. Or, if you own the company, call one customer a day, ask, and that's the data. They'll love to hear from you, and they'll share with you things they wouldn't tell anybody else. So
I'm a big believer that no matter, unless CEO is different, right? But I'm a big believer, whether you're a VP, director, whatever, and you're leading a sales group, you should have a customer.
Yeah, you should always have a customer.
You should always have a customer that you're responsible for, because then you actually know what's going on. You know what it's like out there. You know what their challenges are. I cannot remember the name of the television show, but there was a reality show where you would have the boss who would go down and like work in the trenches. What was that show?
Undercover Boss.
Well, that was actually a really cool concept, right?
Yeah, it's a cool concept. Yeah. But I agree with you, because the further you get away from the customer and what everybody's experience is that's working for you with the customer, you make worse decisions. Decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can spot, in my career, I could always spot the people that I'd be like, have you been in sales? Yeah. That's like, or if you were, how long ago was that?
Yeah.
Because we should get you back out there.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, Elizabeth, this was great. I love this podcast. I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck and get them unstuck. And the podcast is in alignment with that purpose, to help people get unstuck. And you shared a lot of great things to get people unstuck today. So I'm grateful for your time and your wisdom. Think Community, we talk a lot about experience. The name of my business is actually the Jon Dwoskin Experience. And so we talk a lot about experience, and it takes, all it takes is a drop of blood to ruin a gallon of water. And the experience has to be so special today, because most things aren't special. And so you really got to take that extra time. And I think it takes a long, long time to get to simple, to get to clean, to get to the messaging that a lot of companies want, and as well as the packaging like you do, Elizabeth. So Think Community, I'm just going to extract one big thing, which is examine the way that you're looking, examine the way that your customers experience your product and or service, and think about how you can elevate that a smidge this week or this year. Elizabeth, tell people who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you.
We work with all different kinds of industries. So anything from CPG to specialty food, good for you products, cannabis, and anything from startups to Fortune 500 companies. And the best way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn, Elizabeth Corbett.
All right. And the best way to get a hold of me, if you want to talk about any coaching, is jondwoskin.com. I have LinkedIn too. You can go there as well. Elizabeth, thanks. Stay on for just a second. This was great. Appreciate your time. Think Community. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.